Welcome to Book Talk. I'm your host, Anthony Moirore. At Book Talk, we get to have an author come and tell us about his book or her book. And today we have an interesting guest all the way from Columbus, Ohio, with an interesting topic. Now, I've had this complaint from many people who come out of college, and it's quite a tough question when someone meets you and asks you, "Do you have a job?" And he tells you, you tell him, "I don't have a job," and his face goes downcast. And he doesn't have an idea of how to move along life. Now, the guest we have today is going to give you an idea that you can start right away, and you don't have to wait for someone to employ you in his or her company. And without taking one more minute, let's introduce Dan Zucker to the show. Welcome to the show.
Anthony, good to be here. Always fun to be here. Thank you for having me. Good to be here.
Yeah, it's an honor to have you on our show, and
Thank you.
we are delighted. So, for a short intro, Dan Zucker is the founder and president of the American Striping Company. Now, I'm happy I read the word right, striping, because I mean, what's this?
I have said 1,000 times, American striping. Striping has one P. Yeah,
Oh,
I get it. I get
nice.
it.
It's good to know that.
Yes.
So, welcome to the show, and you've written a book, "How I Stripe a Parking Lot."
Yeah.
And we are very eager to know the secrets behind everything, behind the business, behind the craft. So uh, let's move on. First, before we go there, tell us where you're from, how you grew. Tell us everything about you, and then we'll go into the book.
Okay. Originally, I'm from Ohio, right here in
Yeah.
America. Born and raised. I went to school in Oklahoma, center of our country. And after that, I worked in Los Angeles, west side of our country. From there, I just moved back to the house, moved back to Ohio, and settled right in the middle of Ohio, Columbus, Ohio, the capital city, large metropolis, nice town, several colleges, lots of industry, lots of parking lots. So I had job after job, and it just didn't seem enough. And I've said this before too. If owning your own company or running your own shop, entrepreneurship, if you will, is in your DNA, then friend, there's almost nothing else you can do. It doesn't matter how hard it is, or you're just going to do it because that's just in your blood. It's just like that. So that was in mine. I tried a couple of things, and then I tried parking lot striping, and it wasn't easy at first, but man alive, it's been 28, 29 years of a great living. I take winter off, and around the 14-year mark, I thought I want to tell everybody how to do this. So I wrote my book. So there's that. So a little bit of my journey. Just
Yeah,
I hope.
beautiful. Now you
Okay.
said you went and worked, and then you came back home. So what were you working on before you came back home to continue the
When I
story?
went to Oklahoma, it was a school, 2-year school in Oklahoma, Spartan School of Aeronautics in Tulsa,
Hmm.
Oklahoma.
Hmm.
And it was about mechanics. It was mechanics on aircraft. And then from there, I was hired to work at an aircraft factory in Los Angeles. And I was probably 20, 22 years old, in that range. And I worked out there. So when I came back to Columbus, to Ohio, just to visit parents and grandparents and things like that, I settled in Columbus, and I got a job at a paving company, and I was an estimator. So I estimated and gave bids to put in asphalt parking lots and do that kind of work. And we always hired stripers, and that's all they did. They came in after the fact. They would stripe the parking lot. And
Hmm.
I started looking for a job, and that job was okay. But at the same time, friend, I just needed to run my own company. I tried to do a couple things and just small businesses on the side, just didn't seem to work. But don't quit. Don't ever quit. And then I thought, well, why not stripe? So I started striping, and I hired myself to
Hmm.
do a couple of jobs. And I remember, I'll never forget that first job, and et cetera, et cetera. So to me, it's like, if you're out there looking for a side business, even part-time, I know that parking lot striping isn't one of the top 10,
Hmm.
but man, it is in my book. It's number one in my book for several reasons. And I'm here to share.
Yeah, and my viewers and listeners are from all over the world, and to some of us, striping is a new word. Also, I guess there are some who are listening who don't have an idea what striping. So, in a layman's language, can you tell us what exactly is striping?
Yes, if there's a bank in your city or a fast food or a restaurant in your city, everybody on the parking lot has those yellow or white parking lot stripes, those lines, 18
Mhm.
feet long, um, etc. There are also stencils, handicap stencils. There are also arrows, directional arrows in the drive lanes. There are also worded stencils like visitor or guest or customer at places of worship, of strip malls. Um, Gas stations, etc. Every parking lot has those stripes on it. So we have real machines. It's not done by hand. It's not done by paintbrush. It's a real machine the size of a walking behind industrial lawnmower. It's a real machine that does all the work for you. You spray those lines. Around year 5, I started getting the golf course called me back up and said, "Can you restripe our lines? They're a little bit faded." And so the repeat business started and my income started doubling and I went full time. So what I do is I stripe the stripes on a parking lot where people park their cars. Once that's done, we will re-stencil those stencils that they have common to that parking lot. Friend, that's it. And we're gone. And
Mm.
it's good money. It's quick.
And
I can't
that's what
say it
you've been
enough.
living on, even up to now. That's what you've been living on, and you're making good money. And
Yes.
as I was looking on your profile, I say you say that you make a six-figure income per year.
Yes, I do. And friend, I do that in 7 months. I don't even work winter. People ask me, when my kids were young, they would say, "What do you do in the wintertime?" I sled ride.
Mm,
Now it turned into what my buddy says. I sit by the fire with the dog. Now my
mm,
dog is passed away. I wish I miss my dog. Anyhow, um, but yeah, it's 7 months and there's very little overhead. And we can get into all that. There's very little overhead. I worked out of my 2-car garage for 12 years. You don't have a shop. There's very little overhead. So that money was almost all cleared. Um, Great money, great income, part-time or full-time. And in my neck of the woods, in my part of the states, we have winter. So it rains and snows and we just stop. All the stripers I know in my town work 7-8 months and we just stop working. South in the southern portions of our country, and I'm not sure about your weather patterns and such, but in Florida and Texas, California, Nevada, Utah, those hotter climates in our country, they'll work year round. And, and
mm,
and I have a friend in Florida says, "Dan, I want to come up to Ohio. I'm tired of working year round. I want a week or two. I want a month off. I don't know what I would do." So bottom line, it is a great income. I don't have to work year round. The rest of it is budgeting and such like that. But yeah, you can sustain a family. I sustain mine easily. And people that I know make 2 and 3 times what I make, 2 and 3 times what I make.
hmm.
So
And it's good that we know that you work in a company, and that's where people came and striped, and maybe that's where you started your skill. Now, what would you tell someone who's green, who's just out of college, has no idea about striping? How do we even get started on it?
I've said this, it sounds self serving, but I would say this: don't buy anything until you buy my book. Just buy my book and read it.
That's
It,
good.
it's yeah, don't go out and buy a $3,000 machine or a $4,000 machine and then say, "Oh, I wish I'd have done it a little different." Just read my book. Have any questions, you call me, friend, I'm here. I wish I had my book when I started. It was just, I can save you years of trial and error.
Hmm.
So, one, buy my book, read it through, call me with questions. The number two, maybe go out and look for that beer dock that has 2 long lines and an arrow and big letters that say drive through. Look for that little job. Look for that job that has 7 lines on it, not one stencil, and they close at 5 o'clock and they're closed on the weekend. Look for that place of worship that has 25 or 30 lines and it has like 5 stencils that say guest or visitor, one that says pastor, a couple of handicap stencils. That little job that you can do around your current job, etc. Look for that job. That's the second thing.
Hmm.
The third thing is maybe go to your large, well-known paint store. Most of them can give you a price for a machine. And the best I can help here for the European continent is I'm almost positive there's a wonderful striping machine manufacturer in northern Italy, and there's another one in Germany. I'm sure there are more, but those two I know of. So look for that machine, and maybe the people who sell paint, a large, well-known paint store, will be a dealer or a distributor, and they can give you a price on a machine. I can give you the equivalence of what to look for. You don't need a behemoth machine. You don't need a great big machine. You don't.
Mm-hmm.
The ones that I recommend in the States cost $4,700 US. You can find one for $2,000 US. I would look for the machine. Don't buy. We'll look for the machine, and it would be an airless machine. AIRLESS, airless machine. One word. Secondarily, after that, I think the fourth thing would be maybe go through my book. We'll talk. If I said anything more, it would be like in my book. Get the dolly, snap some lines, and things like that. But paint costs. That's what it was. It's paint costs. Ask that distributor how much their paint costs per gallon, and then you'll know some of the pricing and things like that. So, 1, buy my book. 2, explore a machine. 3, explore costs of paint. And 4, look around for some jobs that you can do, smaller jobs that are closed on weekends or at 5 o'clock, and you could handle. Just when you drive around, look for those jobs. How's that?
Yeah. If you can tell us how was it when you first approached your first client? I mean, how were you frightened? How did you even introduce yourself that I'm on my own? I'm not with the company and I want to work for you. I mean,
I remember in my book, there's a chapter called Your First Job. And one of my best pieces of advice is self-standing building where the owner is inside. And in my country, a bank. All right, there's self-standing buildings, and the parking lot might have 40 lines on it and 2 arrows and 3 stencils that say ATM for the money machines. But the owner's not inside. Places of worship, that person is inside. One of my first ones was a pizza parlor. It was a building by itself, had 14 lines up front, 2 handicap stencils, and they don't even open until 4 p.m. So who buys a pizza for breakfast? But I would anyhow. So I just walked in and had a business card, and nobody really likes when you walk in and say, hi, I'm just cold calling for business when you're working here. But I wrote down a price of $250. I said, I'll stripe your parking lot after hours. All you need to do is call me. There's my price. Here's my number. Thanks. Bye. And I walked out. Never heard back from them. Years later, I got that job. One of my second job was it was a home that had been converted into a business, and they put a parking lot on the side. And I referred to it earlier. It had 7 lines on it, not 1 stencil. And I just stopped and I walked in and I said, hi, I stripe parking lots for a living. I have a real striping machine, not an upside down spray can. I'll stripe your parking lot after hours out of your way, $75. And that's it. And they all looked at each other and they looked at me and they start giggling. The guy goes, okay. And I said, all right, thanks. I'll be back after hours and thanks. And I just walked out. I came back that day. I knew they closed at 5, came back that day. It took me a couple of hours, it was like 7 lines. Now it takes me 7 minutes, but anyhow, yeah, the fear is there. But friend, after that first or second job, you want another one. I can do this, because 7 lines, there are no small jobs. There are no big jobs. It's just a bunch of little jobs stuck together. So if I can do 7 lines, I can do 14. If I can do 14, I can do 28. So you start looking for other jobs. And friend, go ahead. Good.
The other question I have is that, do we have a standard rate? I mean, or it's a willing buyer, willing seller kind of arrangement? I mean, I can quote whatever I want depending on my needs or how I think the company is able to.
Are you talking about money, the pricing and bidding? Yeah. One of the reasons I say check out the price for paint. If it's $20 US for a gallon, each gallon gives you maybe 350 feet. So just divide those numbers, and it might be like pennies on the dollar of how much paint costs. Yeah. So you'll start that mathematical formula of what your true overhead is. One other thing I'd say is a daycare called, and they had 14 lines, 2 handicaps. That's all it was. 14 stripes, 14 yellow stripes for cars to park inside, and then 2 handicap stencils. That's all it was. That price was $400. They were closed on Saturdays and Sundays, so it was easy to get to. Open parking lot, 1 trip. And 14 lines, probably well under a gallon. Let's just say a gallon. And in my country right now, paint's about $20 US for a gallon of paint. So I had $20 in the paint and a $400 invoice. And I was there for an hour, just Walk
Just
up the stripe, back down, walk up the next stripe, back down, walk up the next stripe, back down. 14 lines, 14 minutes, even 30 minutes of painting. Take your time on the handicaps, 5-10 minutes a piece, and you drive away.
mm,
So as far as the pricing, mostly in my neck of the woods, it's always priced either a restripe, might be 20, 30, 40 cents a foot, whatever your prices are. Over seal coat a little bit more, over layout a little bit more. Stencils are priced separately. So I can get into more of that if you want. And by the way, it's all in my book. But I can get into that. I'll tell you right now, all of that best I can, but I can't speak across oceans, how much paint costs and things like that.
mm.
I can
Now
give you formulas and ideas.
that's why they need to go and get the book. And for those of you who are joining us now, we are on Book Talk, and our guest today is Dan Zurcher. And we are very honored to have him here. He's talking about how I stripe a parking lot. And he's giving us some good insights into striping or getting started on an entrepreneur journey. For you who is maybe out of college and you don't have something to do, you can always read this book and get an idea. And at this point, I want to appreciate all of you, but I will mention one person who's commented, who is known as Nemi Gamia Marasigan. Thank you. She greets us. Thank you very much for the greetings, and we appreciate that you're watching. And also, are going to even listen on our podcast platforms. You can find our podcast on any of the platforms: Google Podcast, iTunes, Audible. Just search for Book Talk at Book Place, and you'll find us. Now, you saw a post I did a few days ago. We are rated number 4 in the UK on one of the websites as the best book podcast. So thank you very much. And we are moving on with discussing the book. Let's see the book for those of you us who are watching it. So when we go on Amazon, we don't confuse it with another one. So that's the book.
Looks like that. It's the 4th edition, 106 pages, paperback.
Mhm.
Plenty of diagrams. Hope you can see that. Where am I at? There you go. Plenty of diagrams.
Mhm.
How I Stripe a Parking Lot, 28 years by myself, 4th edition. So
Beautiful. And in which places can we find it if we are going to look for it?
the best place would probably be on my site, americanstriping.com, striping as 1P. It's the least cost. There are other avenues to buy it from. I do have it on eBay and I do have it on Amazon. But again, if you go to my site, you'll have a few things. You'll have a better price on my site. And you'll also be able to read some of the things that I say about the industry and et cetera. You'll see my stencils. We do manufacture the stencils for the industry, blah, blah. My site I'd go to first. It's the best price. Amazon, eBay are the other platforms that I have it listed on.
Beautiful. Now, you get started on a business. You've got the machine, or someone loans you some. If you are from college, and maybe you don't have a starting capital. Even when you mention about $5,000, it's not something small for a college student. And we'll find a way to get started. But how do we scale? How do we get to 6 figures like you? What's the secret of building a business, a successful business that is going to keep on growing and growing?
I don't think there is a secret, and I truly think that there are sometimes you cannot reinvent the wheel. I truly think when I first went out, I remember going to a landscaping. It was a nursery, and in here we sell in nurseries. We have plants, trees, flowers. It was a good sized parking lot. Well, they closed at like 6 p.m. on Sundays. So I came in at 6 p.m. and started making my marks on the ground. It was probably 25, 50, 150 car parking lot, 10 or 12 stencils, half dozen arrows, probably take me a few hours to do anyhow. Well, I started making my marks and then all the people started leaving because they were closing. They closed the gates. Friend, I had more people stop me. Hey, buddy, because they couldn't get in because the gates were closed. Can you come stripe our parking lot? And I'd stop striping. I'd walk up. I'd hand them a card. Say, yeah, where you at? Let me. And I wrote down where they were, down the road, up the road. And I had 3 of them. And I started thinking, this is terrible. I started thinking, stop stopping me from work. I mean, it's great because people are stopping you and saying, can you come give us a bid, whether it's a place of worship or their business or their company or store? And the answer is yes. So how did I grow? The first year, and this is in my book, the first year I made $4,000 and it paid for the machine. The second year I made $13,000. And again, people would stop me. I was striping a post office and somebody stopped by and goes, is this your business? I said, this is my empire, friend, right here. And he said, can you come by and give me a bid? It was a strip mall. He owned a strip mall, like 5 stores. And I said, absolutely. So I finished that up and went over, looked at his, and that's how it started. Word of mouth, people seeing you working, etc. My third year, I made 30 grand, and then it started doubling, and it kept doubling. And my wife said, why don't we just quit your day job, go full time? And I did, and it doubled again. And friend, I just can't say enough. I think there's no big walk right into 6 figures. But at the same time, the beauty of striping is you don't have to quit your day job. If you've got a job that pays the bills, you can keep that. And you can go stripe the bank on a Tuesday night or a Saturday morning or your day off. You can stripe the school in the summertime because they're closed, so you can work around it and make a few $100s. You can make $400 doing a daycare and be back in three or 4 hours on a Saturday. So then you can walk into it as your company grows. But one of the beauties of striping is on your own time, you can stay part-time. You can just grow into it. But that's how I went from 4, 13, 30, 60, then I started doubling 4 or 5 years. At the 5-year mark, I want to say this again. At the 5-year mark, people start calling back. Are you still striping? Yes, I am. Can you come by and knock out our fast food? Yeah, absolutely. I'll be by in the morning, and before you open at 10, I'll be done. So done. And so that doubled all that repeat business. And it's commercial work. It's all commercial work. It's just yellow stripes, white stripes. It's just the same thing over and over, which can sound boring, but friend, you'll get so good so quick. Can't say enough. Can't say enough. But it took me 5 or 6 years to get there. But I'm not looking back. But yeah, just
Yeah, that's quite interesting. But what I want to imagine right now, as we are speaking, is, and you mentioned going from 400, 5 grand, and growing and growing, and you come to a point when you have making 6-figure. I want to imagine that you are not doing it by your own only. You have some hands with you, and this is why we are talking of a company. How did you get there?
I don't.
You don't.
I don't. Many stripers are 1 and 2 company, 2 people, husband and wife, 2 brothers, 1 woman, many. And most of us don't have a shop because the machine is as big as a lawnmower, and that can fit in our garage or a shed out back. If you do have a trailer, most people have an enclosed trailer and they'll park it in their driveway if they can. If they can't, in America, we have these places called You Store It. So it's a gated community where you can just rent a garage for like $80 a month, and you can put an open trailer in there if you need to, or you can put an enclosed trailer out in one of their parking stalls. It's gated and locked, like where people store their boats for the wintertime. It's $35 a month. So beyond that, no, if I can mow the grass by myself, friend, I can stripe a parking lot by myself. So no, I did most of this work by myself. Now, when I had 14,000 feet of a layout, I would ask a couple of the boys around town, and they're 20 years old or in college, and I'm 30, 40 years old by the time. And all they really need to do is hold one end of a rope or a tape, measuring tape. And I would do the marking and striping, but no, 90% by myself. If you can mow the grass, literally mow the grass, if you're physically that you can mow the grass, I can teach you how to stripe. And if you can do that by yourself, friend, you can stripe by yourself. The only thing I would caution with is some neighborhoods, I will go in daytimes. Other neighborhoods, I'm not going in the nighttime. So when I'm by myself, that's that. But no, 90% of the time by myself. Stores closed, pizza shops closed. They don't open till 4. I'm in and out in an hour and a half by myself. So yeah.
Oh, quite interesting.
Yeah.
And on my podcast at Book Talk, we have more than just info on a book. And what we have extra is what you're already doing. You're inspiring someone out there who may be having an idea, not necessarily striping, but is stuck and has no imagination of the magnitude that he or she can achieve once he gets started. I mean, you just have to get started. So that's what I am getting from your story. Just get started.
I couldn't agree more. And I've said this before. When I was in high school and in my college years, never did I even think about parking lot striping. I told a buddy of mine, and he helped me with a hospital parking lot. It was like 400 cars. And he said, Dan, ever since you told me about this, I can't drive anywhere without looking at the stripes. He goes, I have to watch where I'm going. Some stripes are so crooked. I think, how did they get paid? And I start laughing. And I said, don't crash the car. Watch where you're going. But he says the same thing. He never would have thought of it. I never thought of it until I was in the industry bidding jobs that people wanted a parking lot. Like if a drugstore needed a new parking lot, they would call the company that I worked for, and I would bid that work, asphalt work or seal coat work. And then we would, once that's done, we have to hire a striping company to come in and restripe what we did. And I never would have thought about it, but, and he, same thing, as buddy of mine. So yeah, if you're looking for a great side business, consider striping. And don't buy anything till you buy my book. Read that through. If it's not for you, and then so be it. But yeah, at least consider it. I'm here to talk about it. I'll help you. Call me with questions, friend. I'm here. So
Wonderful, wonderful. And we are talking of 28 years of striping parking lots. Now, there's one thing I have in my mind. I can imagine by that time that you were starting, we were not so advanced in technology like we are right now. We have all social media, we have all the internet, and now things have changed. And how has it improved, or how has it affected your business, this coming of technology?
I'll talk about the technology in the business, and then I can talk about online and marketing, stuff like that. In the business, it used to be a 260-pound machine that ran with an air compressor on it. It was iron, and it sprayed lines. Then it went to a 170, lost 100-pound machine, a lighter machine. The paint bucket actually sits right on top of the machine, and it sprays without a compressor. And that's why it's called airless. No air is involved in the paint. It just forces paint through the tiniest little slit in a tip, and it forces it out. No different than if you were to put your thumb over the end of a garden hose and make it fan out. That's the same as an airless. It's just, there's no air. It just fans out. That airless machine was invented. After that came the rider that hooked up to it. Friend, I haven't walked behind it. It's like a riding machine behind a lawnmower. It just pushes the machine. So I have a striping machine that does the work. I sit behind on a rider, and my feet move the pedals, and it pushes the machine. So I haven't walked, I don't even know how long, but that truly helped. Nowadays, and what one of the tricks was that we use on a long center line right down the middle of a supermarket or shopping center, a long center line between when one car pulls in, head in, the other car pulls in, head in, there's a long center line. When we would lay a rope all the way down, pull it straight, pull it tight, and then spray right beside it, and that's how we go straight. Nowadays, there are lasers that hang off the handlebars, and it shoots a beam, into a box. And if you keep that beam in that box 300 feet out or 207 feet out, whatever it is, then you're going straight. So it saves time on that too. So we have the airless machine came along, then the rider behind it came along, and now the lasers have come along. So those things have helped immensely, just immensely. As far as not getting tired, getting done more quickly, things like that. So that's one thing. On the other side is certainly the internet has been invented since I started. It wasn't around. We didn't even have cell phones when I started. So to me, though, when I sell stencils, I sell them nationwide. I have a website. People all over the United States buy my stencils, blah, blah, blah. But I'm not going to Iowa to stripe. I stripe in my 15-mile city right in that range. So if you're striping, you may not need a website because you're not going 800 miles away when somebody can find you online, or kilometers. I'm sorry. So maybe some Facebook notifications or website or business site on Facebook to help you with the local marketing, something along those lines. That is certainly going to help. But do not underestimate driving by a small place of worship and you think, I can stripe that. There's 15 lines there and one stencil that says pastor, or a beer dock drive-through. that has 2 long lines and an arrow and one stencil that says drive through or exit, or a hospital that has 15 lines and 3 stencils that says patient. You can do that. Don't underestimate walking in, handing them a business card, say, I stripe parking lots. I have a real striping machine, not an upside down spray can, $250 or whatever your local currency is. And then call me. It's all you need to do. Call me. Don't underestimate that.
Thank you very much.
Contact. Yeah.
Yeah, sure. Thank you very much. So what I am imagining now is that we have opportunities all around us. And for you who is listening and don't have an idea, why not try striping your neighborhood? Just walk around and see places where it's not marked and ask to stripe it. You'll be surprised for them telling you, yeah, do it. We've been waiting for someone to come and ask. But before you do that, go and get the book from Dan Zurcher.
You did great. That's great.
Yeah.
That's great.
So at this point, I'll ask you to, we are almost going off air. I'll ask you to leave us with some words that we'll always remember. If they are connected with striping or whatever it is that is going to inspire whoever is listening. We are waiting.
My first job took me 4 hours. It was one of those jobs where the road moved. There were 3 stripes here. The road moved on down, 4 stripes there, maybe 30, 40 lines. It took me 4 hours. My wife was with me. I didn't know what I was doing. Our daughter was on her hip as she was helping me. It took me 4 hours. It took me 2 gallons of paint. At the time, paint cost $6 US. So it was $12. I billed $75. 4 years later, buddy calls me up. Hey, Dan, can you go stripe this road, this little condo place on Elaine Road? And I hung up the phone. I thought, that's my first job. 4 years later, I was done in 45 minutes, did it by myself. I billed $150. Paint had moved up to $8 a gallon, 2 gallons. So it was $16 and I billed $150. Took me 45 minutes by myself. And friend, I say this, it looks so much better the second time than the first time. I'm saying you'll get there. If I can do it, you can do it. If I can do it, you can do it more quickly because I'm here. You have a question about my book, you call me up. I will help you. I'm here. I know what it's like to be broke. And when you're broke, when I was broke, that's why I started. I was broke. And when you're broke, it has nothing to do with money. It has everything to do with you sit at the edge of your bed. I questioned every decision I ever made. It had nothing to do with money. So I started my own business. And friend, there are no big jobs. There's just a bunch of little ones stuck together, and I'm here. I'll help you. You call me up, I'll help you. I've been there. I will help you. All right.
Beautiful. And I'll leave the listeners and the viewers with these 3 Ds that Dan mentioned, introduced us. Decisions determine destiny.
Yeah.
Don't wait for tomorrow to make the decision to go and get Dan's book. Get it now. So thank you very much, Dan. We are very honored and we appreciate you taking your time and giving us this insight into striping. We really
Anthony, fun to be here. I appreciate you. Nice to meet you and all. And you call anytime, friend. I'm always around for you. All right.
Okay. Remind us your websites.
AmericanStriping.com. Striping as 1 P. AmericanStriping.com.
It's good you remind us always. It has one.
Yeah.
Not to land somewhere else.
No, you don't want to go there.
So AmericanStriping.com. Go and get the book. How I Stripe a Parking Lot by Dan Zurcher. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Anthony.
And thank you to the listeners and the viewers. And we are honored that you're here. Thank you. Bye for now.